The first time I realized I was an outcast was on the day I should have felt most included. The morning was bright, the sky cloudless, and the smell of simmering mandazi from the food stalls reached all the way to our school's courtyard. I stood backstage in my ill-fitting second-hand suit, sweating through my borrowed shirt. When the headmistress announced my name as the valedictorian, the applause sounded polite, practiced, less alive than the crows perched outside the dusty windows. I walked to the podium clutching my speech. My hands shook not with excitement but with dread. I glanced out and found Mum's tired face among the crowd, shadowed by the round hats of my uncles and aunties. Beside her was Uncle Moses, lips pinched in a look I'd come to know well, half smirk, half sigh. I steadied myself, eyes fixed beyond their heads, scanning the jacaranda blossoms sprouting across campus. "Thank you for this honor," I began. "I want to talk about dreams sometimes." A cough, loud and pointed, shot up from one of my cousins. Shuffling, then a low, honest laugh from the middle benches cut through the air. I tried to continue, but another voice chimed in. "Dreams don't pay rent." It was familiar, a distant cousin, Stephen, whose mouth always moved faster than his thoughts. The crowd murmured, uneasy, amused. Someone in the teacher's row tried to hush them, but the laughter rippled out and did not stop. My throat felt tight. I pressed on. "I believe telling stories, our stories, can change the world. I want to become a filmmaker, to show the beauty and fight in Nairobi in Kenya in us." A collective snicker. "So we can see you on Citizen TV," Stephen called. Maury laughter. I felt my cheeks burning. Mum's eyes dropped to her lap. A chair scraped as Uncle Moses shifted, muttering something about proper jobs and wasting brains. I've watched this memory on repeat more times than I can count. The colors of the day, the yellow robes, the orange sunlight creeping through the tent canvas, the dull blue of my tie, the heat of humiliation never faded, even as the scene grayed in my mind. After my speech fizzled to silence, I left the stage, my certificate crumpled in my hand. That evening at home, Mum made tea and barely spoke. Our one-worn sofa sagged between us. She tried to smile, but when I said softly, I meant what I said, all she managed was, "Stories are good, but the world is hard." For months after graduation, I scoured Nairobi for work, not stories, jobs. I taught English at a cram school in Kanjami. I delivered groceries near Kilimani. I edited sermons for a church's YouTube channel, though half the work was stolen footage, and the other half I wasn't allowed to show emotion in. Still, on Saturday mornings, I borrowed Dad's old camcorder, the one with the cracked flip-out screen and missing eyepiece. I filmed Boda Boda drivers trading anecdotes over mugs of chai. I filmed street kids racing up Wayaki Way. I filmed Dada Sarah at dawn, unfurling her stall before the market bustled to life. Most times when I lifted the camera, people eyed me warily, called me names. Jard, one of Uncle Moses' sons, passed me in Gikomba Market and shouted, "Look, the next Lupita." He threw a cabbage leaf at my shoes and everyone nearby laughed, but I edited those clips in the quiet of my room at night. I stitched my city together bit by stubborn bit. In that racket and isolation, my dream, whittled so small by rejection, kept glinting like a buried coin. I was humiliated, I was also patient. 2 years slipped by this way. My odd jobs barely kept the lights on. There was no applause for small stories, no one inviting me to speak or asking what I saw. My uncles shrugged, my cousins snickered. At home, Mum's silence deepened into resignation. Yet I refused to let go. One day, after a shift editing church videos, I saw a flyer at Alliance Francaise, short film contest, open to all ages, Nairobi unseen. On whim and desperation, I entered my footage. Scraps of city life, voiceovers in my scratchy, nervous tone. I stayed up 3 nights piecing them together by the light of my flickering desk lamp. The day after submission, rain fell in smooth sheets on red earth. I tramped through puddles to my teaching job, convinced nothing would come of it. 3 weeks later, an email flashed on my screen. I was shortlisted. By the end of the month, I stood, new clothes, hair roughly combed, before a projection screen, my work flickering in shadow across faces. Critics from the nation took notes. Old white filmmakers raised bushy eyebrows. One woman from Reuters tapped her phone, typing my name. When the winners were announced, I didn't win, but an Italian producer with a long beard pressed his card into my palm and said, "Write to me. You see things well." I nearly didn't, but one sticky Thursday with nothing left to lose, I did. He responded within days, then months passed in a flurry of voice notes, script drafts, rejections, and a few small, persistent yesies. He funded half of my documentary idea, an honest film about the stone miners in Kale, men and women whose muscles carved homes beneath a city that barely noticed them. It was noisy, clumsy work. Sometimes the camera cut out. I got sunburned, scolded, threatened by cartels looking for bribes, but I finished it. When my first documentary aired on TV, it played at 11:07 p.m. on a Tuesday. I sat alone in our living room while Mum slept in her bedroom, but before the credits rolled, my phone flooded with messages from strangers, journalists, even student filmmakers at USIU. Stephen, the cousin who once heckled me at graduation, texted, "Bro, that was you, saw her name up there, holla." The years after that moved less like wind, more like a slow river. I made more films, one about Nairobi's forgotten river, another about teenage chess champions in Masya, a third about women boda riders at the edge of town. Each one brought small grants, some applause from corners that had never heard my name before. Yet no matter how many strangers recognized me, home remained unchanged. When I visited, our estate greeted me as before, with the screech of matatus, the thump of gospel from tiny speakers, the same faces leaning over balconies as if watching nothing new. My uncles still shook their heads. "Life might knock that camera out of your hand one day," Uncle Moses would mutter as I walked past. I accepted it. My success seemed to grow only outside the bounds of my own world. Maybe that was enough. 3 years after the TV debut, I got an invitation. An international festival in Berlin wanted to feature a retrospective, New African Voices. They'd chosen 3 of my films. The organizer urged me to come and speak, expenses paid. I called Mum that night. She answered, her voice hesitant. "So, you are going on a plane out of Kenya?" I laughed, surprised at my own relief. "Yes, Mum. To Berlin." Her silence stretched long, but this time it wasn't disapproval. Come for Ugali before you go at least." That felt like blessing enough. Berlin was rain-soaked, brisk, full of faces I couldn't read. My English sounded different here, clipped, anxious, but when my films played one after another, the audience's odd silence felt reverent, not mocking. They asked about my city, my mother, my stubbornness. Reporters scribbled notes and pronounced my name carefully. I felt distant and proud, as if the boy in the old suit from graduation was shaking his head in disbelief. Returning to Nairobi after Berlin, I was changed only in the quietest way. My success, so raw and hard-won, was still something I wore under my coat, but something in me itched to return not as a stranger, but as a son whose work could be seen, and whose worth finally could be measured by more than ridicule. The opportunity came a month later, disguised as a citywide education event. The Nairobi County Youth Council wanted success stories, locals who'd made it, and would speak at their annual open-air event at Uhuru Park. When I read my name on the flyer, wedged between a gospel musician and a tech entrepreneur, I hesitated. I thought of the laughing cousins, the averted gazes, the hard set of my uncles' mouths. I called the organizer. "My family, they don't believe in what I do, not really. It might," I trailed off. She interrupted gently. "Let them witness then." The event arrived on a Saturday. The air was raw with the scent of cut grass and sweat. Banners flapped and tents lined the paths. Beyond the speaker's stage, a massive LED screen stood ready, towering, unmissable, the kind I used to stare at as a boy from the cheap benches. As I waited backstage, I saw Mum in a stiff, yellow dress flanked by 3 uncles, Uncle Moses front and center. My cousins clustered behind, some taller now than I remembered, others with children of their own trailing them. Some looked away, Jard stared, arms folded. Stephen juggled his phone but eyed the stage. When my name was called, cheers rose from the students, strangers mostly. But I saw, with a strange sense of vertigo, that my whole family was sitting at the front. The seats had been reserved for VIP guests. The irony was not lost on me. I stepped up, feeling the sun already burn my neck. The crowd of faces rippled beyond the plastic chairs. The MC read a line from my Berlin press kit, award-winning Nairobi documentary filmmaker, bringing new light to our stories. I began quietly, sparing a glance at my family. When I was 19, I stood at a podium and spoke of my dream, to tell stories, to give our city a voice. I was laughed at even by those who loved me, but I kept filming. For the forgotten, for everyone who thinks their life is too small to notice. People murmured, cameras shifted. I kept my eyes above the heads of my family, focusing on the world just past them. "What I want to show you now," I continued, "are stories you may know, maybe your own, through the lens I carried with me since the days you called this dream ridiculous." With a nod to the tech, I stepped back. The LED screen flared to life. My latest documentary flickered up, the chess girls in Massia, their laughter in the sun, the boda drivers who watched over each other at closing. The stone miners washing their hands in a muddy stream, their arms striped with dust and pride. The footage rolled on, crisp and immediate, the city alive and beautiful as I'd always seen it. I heard gasps from the audience, many recognized the places, the faces. I searched out Mum, she pressed a hand to her mouth. Uncle Moses leaned forward, raw surprise etched across his brow. Stephen's phone dropped to his lap, forgotten. As the film ended, the crowd erupted in applause, not the faint kind but something that rolled across the green grass in a wave, carrying with it every echo I'd ever longed for. The MC asked for questions. A boy in a school sweater stood. "Did your family support you?" My hands shook, but this time not from fear. "They worried I would fail," I said. "They thought the camera wasn't enough," I understood, but I stayed and worked, and now even they can see the proof. Sometimes those closest to us need to witness before believing. As the program wrapped up, reporters clustered at the foot of the stage. Local teachers clapped me on the back. Strangers wanted photos. Through it all, I saw my family unsure, holding back. I waded through the crowd, sweat prickling my skin. As I neared, my uncles and cousins stood uncertainly. Uncle Moses squinted, then slowly, as if measuring the moment, stuck out his hand. "You made us proud, boy," he said, the words thick, hard to force out. "Very proud." Behind him, my aunties nodded, eyes shining slightly. Mum pressed my hand in both of hers. I felt the tension break like the day's heat after a storm. "I did not know," she whispered, "how serious you were. Now I see, now we all see." The cousins, once my loudest doubters, now buzzed around full of praise. Even Stephen, abashed, mumbled, "Let me know if you ever need an actor, eh?" Home before that afternoon had always felt like a test I'd failed before I started. Now it felt like a place I could return to, not to ask for permission, but to show what I'd built with the very tools they'd mocked. As the sun dropped behind Nairobi's skyline, people drifted off. My family lingered at the park fringe, reluctant to leave. Mum held my arm a little longer than usual. Uncle Moses invited me quietly for tea. For once, the laughter around me was warm, not at my expense. The city pressed in as dusk fell. Matatus honked, vendors called, distant music trembled on the wind. It sounded for the first time like an invitation. That night, as I sat on the stoop of my childhood home, breathing in the soft, forgiving air, I no longer felt the need to escape or to justify. The boy who'd once choked on his graduation speech in a room full of scorn knew, finally, what it was to come back, seen, believed, and redeemed by the place that once shut him out. And for the first time, my patience tasted not like sacrifice but like home.